May the road rise to meet you, may the wind be at your back, may the spirit of this place always sustain you and bring you back. Protection for the journey, a golden shield and shining star, across the world or amber waves of grain, Our Lady waits with open arms. Listen for a question as you seek your pot of gold, and your story unfolds. What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? Heaven's an open door when you find what you're fighting for. Your gifts come from above. May you always choose love. Choose love. May the sunshine warm upon your face, rain fall soft upon your fields. Yes, rain will fall from time to time. Our test is how we choose to heal. Along the way you may feel lost sometimes. Seek and you shall find. What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? Heaven's an open door when you find what you're fighting for. Your gifts come from above. May you always choose love. Choose love. Legends gone before, now you're the keeper of the flame. Journey well and live to tell, we are Notre Dame. What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? Heaven's an open door if that's what you're fighting for. Your answer's in the question, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of His hand.
Alright, we're going to get started. If anyone wants a map, you could have one. We have a couple of copies. Otherwise, you can just follow along. It's not that complicated. Alright.
Hasn't quite started, but it's coming soon. It's going to be an amazing way to recover vision for patients. And I just had a patient the other day who has retinitis pigmentosa, and he asked me about a medication that's a seizure medication that they're studying now for RP. And I looked it up online, and the research is actually funds are being supplied by this organization, which I didn't know. So, it's really touching the lives of people right here in Michiana and family members. And finally is macular degeneration, which Father Hesburgh has macular degeneration, and the macula is the center part of your retina. So if you don't have a macula, you can't read, you can't drive, you can't recognize faces, and it is millions of Americans with that. You probably have relatives and friends and grandparents who have it. And so the research coming from this foundation is really changing what goes on, and some of that stuff is being done here with Dr. Hyde and some of the nano stuff as well. So what you're doing here, supporting this, and hopefully we can make it grow, is helping people locally and hopefully helping people throughout our country and the world with these blinding conditions. So it's a good thing you're here. So the weather held out. So it's good.
Thankfully, we have world-renowned researchers here at Notre Dame, like our own Dr. David Hyde, who research this and dedicate their lives to finding the cure for blindness. And so, for all the researchers around the world, and especially Dr. Hyde, we thank you for that.
Dr. Hyde! He's right there.
And finally, I want to thank the Biology Club and our club advisor, Dr. David Veselick, right there.
All right, Doc.
For all the support in the planning and preparation for the Vision Walk. And my fellow biology major and good friend, Nestor Agbayani, for all his time and effort in helping plan the Vision Walk. Right, so with all that being said, I now want to pass it off to Miss Maria Sellers. She's a Notre Dame graduate, class of 2011, and she actually founded the Vision Walk here. And so she's going to kind of talk about the Vision Walk history and purpose. And yeah, with that said, here's Maria.
So yes, again, thank you. I'd just like to reiterate how excited I am that this walk has continued. It started in 2010, and the inspiration was, as Antoinette mentioned, Father Hesburgh. I recall going up to his office one day and having an audience, which was really awesome. So if you haven't done that yet, you should totally do that before you graduate, or if you can. And his library overlooks and is next to beautiful campus, the Dome. But he had books upon books just lining his shelves, his floors, his desk. And it was really disheartening to hear how he was no longer able to read and fulfill that passion because he was suffering from blindness, and he was starting to read books on tape or listen to books on tape, which is great, but was unable to continue fulfilling what he loved to do. So I learned a little bit more about the Foundation for Fighting Blindness, which is what this walk is going towards. It was founded in 1971, and they provide research funds to research institutions and hospitals throughout the world. One of them was Notre Dame back in about 5 years ago or so, and they continue to fund places like Johns Hopkins and Harvard, and as well as eye hospitals such as Moorfields Eye Hospital in London, which is another place where I was exposed to those who are suffering from retinal degenerative diseases. And they have great stories of people who have been healed in some of the trials that they've been completing, such as one individual who was able to see his child being born after suffering from blindness. So I just want to thank you again. I want to thank Dr. Hyde for his research, Dr. Gerber for his efforts here throughout the South Bend community, Dr. V in the Bio Club, Nestor and Antoinette for all their help, and for those who are suffering from this disease and are just being constant inspirations for everyone. So thank you. And Dr. Gerber will speak next.
Hi, I'm glad to hear there's some juniors in charge. We'll have another one next year at least. briefly just tell you what this is all about, what retinal degeneration is, and then I have the pleasure of having one of my patients here and a friend of mine who's going to tell you how it affects his life to really give you a face on these diseases. So, the Foundation Fighting Blindness, the funny thing is, just in a magazine this week I was looking through, there was a big article about the $2.4 million they gave to about 10 centers throughout the country for research. So this is ongoing stuff, and it's really exciting what's going on, because we live in a new world with genetics and new things that are really happening that are really giving people hope. So what's a retinal degeneration? Well, the retina is like the film of a camera, if you think of your eye as a camera. And so when your retina degenerates, you can't see. And people will come into me and say, well, can't you just give me a stronger pair of glasses? I mean, won't I see then? And the answer is no, because it's like a camera. If the film is no good, you could put every kind of lens you want on there and they're not going to see. And that's the frustrating part of these diseases. So there's a whole slew of them, and there's sort of three groups. There's people who are born with it, where it shows up right away and they're blind from birth, or at least they can only see light and dark. There's people who have retinitis pigmentosa, which is a hereditary disease, but it starts showing up later in life, which is what Mr. Blauvelt's going to tell you about. And then there's the older patients who have macular degeneration, which affects millions and millions of Americans. You probably have grandparents or aunts and uncles or people you know who suffer from macular degeneration. So what's going on with all this? Well, Foundation Fighting Blindness is the largest provider of funds for retinal research in the country that's a private fund, not government. And so they provide millions and millions of dollars for these diseases and for research, and that's how we're going to cure them, is through research. And cures are happening. That's really the amazing thing. Maria talked about an example, but this disease called Leber's that kids are born with, they're actually now able to take the genes, inject them into the eye, under the retina, and the genes start working, and people start seeing things they haven't seen before. Not perfect vision, but they start to see, which is an amazing, amazing thing if you think about 10, 20, 30 years ago, how remote that all seemed. So now they're taking that research and translating it to people with retinitis pigmentosa, hopefully, and then also to macular degeneration. And there's even some really exciting stuff I read about that they're doing now. It's called something brand new. It's called optogenetics. So basically, they're taking cells that are still alive in the retina that weren't supposed to be vision cells, and they're able to convert them to light perception cells, and now that's giving even more hope to people with macular degeneration, because there are cells in there that work, just not the photoreceptors. So there's grants going on now for that, and there's just so much excitement going on in this field, and by you guys being here and supporting this, and by Maria starting it, and by everyone kind of taking up the torch, we can make a real difference, because these things affect people you know, and it's really a wonderful thing that the community's kind of getting behind it.
So I'm not sure if this is going to be so much of a blessing, but more of a reflection just from hearing everyone talk. And we all know at Notre Dame we have a lot of gifts, and a lot is expected of us with these gifts. And if you ever listen to Father Hesberg, he makes that very clear. And so I know today he would be very proud of our graduate Maria and Antoinette and Nestor for putting together just a great event. So thank you guys again for that.
May the road rise to meet you, may the wind be at your back, may the spirit of this place always sustain you and bring you back. Protection for the journey, a golden shield and shining star, across the world or amber waves of grain, Our Lady waits with open arms. Listen for a question as you seek your pot of gold, and your story unfolds.